Hello everyone, welcome to Preterist Papers. This is the 13th discussion in our series. The title of this article is The Olivet Discourse Was Fulfilled in the First Century, Part 2. You can find this printable 2-page fact sheet on our website, preteristpapers.com. This is the second part of our exploration of Matthew 24. We remember that Jesus was in the process of informing the disciples of the things that would happen before the total dissolution of the Old Covenant and the full realization of the Kingdom of God. They were living in that transitional phase of the already but not yet, which was the overlapping of the Old and New Covenant. Video number 8 discusses this concept. In verses 15 to 16, Jesus warned his followers to flee from the land of Judea, where Jerusalem was located, when they saw the abomination of desolation. In the parallel passage in Luke, Jesus warned them to flee when they saw armies encircling Jerusalem, which happened a month or two after the temple was defiled. In item number 9 on this sheet, Jesus told his disciples of the hardship of this necessary flight from Judea. The stage was being set for the Roman invasion, and he did not want his followers swept up in the conflict. In item number 10, this may appear to be the same warning of false messiahs we saw in verse 5, but it's actually different. We believe this is in reference to the rising war movement, zealot leaders and their prophets who seduced first-century Jews into war against Rome. They claimed they wanted only Yahweh to rule over them and that God was on their side. This kind of war-based kingdom building was completely opposite to Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount. There were plenty of false prophets at this time to convince the spiritually deceived of Judea that they could be delivered from Roman rule and possess an earthly messianic kingdom through human might. In item number 11, Jesus said, "You see, I have told you in advance." When the disciples saw all these events happen, they would be confident that history was unfolding just as the Master had said, and all was according to plan. In item number 13, the sun and moon go dark. This is not the physical world ending, but the people's personal, social, religious worlds collapsing. Video 2 discusses this language. Please notice in item number 14 that Jesus is speaking about a sign that causes the tribes of Israel to mourn. The Roman destruction of Jerusalem was the sign that pointed to something even more important. It was a sign that the Son of Man was in heaven, directing the whole thing. It's important we understand that the Roman destruction, as catastrophic as it was only a sign of something much greater: the invisible rule of Christ, the sovereignty of God. In item number 16, let's look at verse 34. Jesus told his listeners that all these things were going to happen in the disciples' generation. How people can ignore this in so many statements like it shows the power of repetition and the habitual traditional tracks in which we think. This statement, "Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have happened," does not fit in the traditional church paradigm, and so, amazingly, Jesus' very words are dismissed instead of the false teaching. We need to do much better. In truth, this verse 34 is one of the great evidences of Jesus' lordship. Jesus was the quintessential prophet who prophesied the events of 40 years future to him with precise detail and accuracy. How can one explain this except that he was and is truly God? We need to realize that, like first-century people, we are also wicked, We are trespassers, lovers of the world and worldly things, self-righteous and rebellious. It's only as we trust in Jesus, who is the life, the resurrection, the righteousness, that we are made whole. Thank you for listening and hope to catch you in the next video. Shalom.